This is a smart nation. This is Singapore.
Singapore fashions itself as the world's first smart nation, and it's easy to see why. This is a hyper-connected country. A recent poll suggests Singaporeans spend almost 13 hours a day on their gadgets. All that technology makes it a lot easier for the government here to keep track of things. One way they do that is through surveillance cameras. In fact, no matter where you're at in Singapore, you don't have to look very far to see that someone is watching. There are cameras everywhere here, big ones. And of course, that's not necessarily unusual. But in Singapore, the government can conduct surveillance, including monitoring telephone calls, emails, and other private discussions without a court warrant. That helps make this the perfect place to host a sensitive international summit.
Singapore can guarantee that there's not going to be any protests against Donald Trump. There's not going to be any protests against Kim Jong Un. There's not going to be any security threats because everything is going to be under constant surveillance.
Singapore has one of the world's lowest crime rates. According to Gallo, Singaporeans reported feeling safer than residents in any other country for 5 consecutive years. The stability also helps create wealth, making Singapore a global financial capital. But it's not all pretty.
They are definitely using this for not only sort of crime fighting, which is, of course, what they would maintain all along, but they use this for political reasons as well. I mean, they want to keep track of what the opposition is doing. They want to keep track of, what activists are about.
Activists like Jolovan Wham, one of the Singapore government's most prominent critics.
If you're an activist in Singapore, you have to make, or a politician, you have to make the assumption that everything that you say, everything that you do, and even emails, conversations with friends, these are things that they have access to. Yeah, because surveillance is a part of life in Singapore, especially if you are a critic of the ruling party.
Wham was charged last year for organizing unauthorized protests. We spoke at Hong Lim Park, the only place in the country where protests are allowed, assuming you get a permit.
Like for instance in Hong Lim Park, there are cameras everywhere, so it is designed to intimidate and to create this culture of fear and censorship.
The government didn't answer VOA's request for comment. But the fact is, overall, there is very little dissent against the ruling party, which has for decades dominated politics in Singapore. One of the world's coolest countries with a lot of wealth and a lot of security. Bill Gallo, VOA News, Singapore.